always say welcome back because it's almost as if you are my guest. And I appreciate you so much for being here. And it's cool. It makes me feel like I'm talking to you like right in front of me. I know I'm looking at the camera and I see myself in it, but I speak to the world, about everything that's inside my heart. I just talk about the way I see the world, and people are picking up on that because they can see that within themselves. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate you for that. And I find it very cool to consider the audience as my guest because you're showing up for yourself. And I think that's important. I think that's important to talk about, as this is kind of a show where I just do it by myself kind of thing, but I'm not. You're right here. You're right here with me. And we're both on this journey together, and we're just sharing, like you don't have to be right in front of me to share about the things that are going on inside of you, because I just want you to share them with yourself. This is all to self-awareness, to bring you closer to the human that you want to be by overcoming fear. Because fear is the thing that restricts us the most in this life. It is a very powerful tool of control. Yes, it can be a powerful tool of control externally from us, by establishments, corporations, finance, government, this kind of thing. But more so, fear restricts us from an internal perspective, because fear is not something you're born with. It's something you cultivate within, usually through learned behavior or experiences or emotional traumas or an inability to process emotions. We become afraid, and we practice fear within ourselves because we don't know anything else. And even though fear is detrimental to our personal growth, it's something that we do because it's something that we know, and it's comforting to be afraid and hide from our truth, or hide from the emotional relinquishment that we all crave, because that's very real. Emotions are valid. Absolutely. To feel is a very physical thing. To come here and to run through a wide range of emotions, it's a beautiful thing. Absolutely. But what's not so beautiful, and what's absolutely detrimental to the whole process of being in a present moment, is when we have an inability to process those emotions because we are afraid. Because we are afraid to move through an emotional experience or a traumatic experience. But the results of that are freedom. You're able to let something go. Just like the trees let go of the leaves in the fall, they make room for something new in the spring. And emotions is a wonderful way to look at that same analogy, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're allowing things to flow through the vessel, because that's what it is. Everything is energy. Emotions are energy. And the greater the emotion, the greater the energy. But if you take that energy and you restrict it and you put it in a box and you bury it deep within you, you're going to carry it. So kind of view the emotional experience, or the emotional repetitive cycle, from that point of view, from that perspective. Now, if you've created a bunch of energetic boxes that haven't been opened and you've stacked them on top of each other, these things weigh you down, because we are energy. We are vessels that allow energy to come in and then flow through us. But if we have a bunch of restrictions along the way, the energy doesn't flow correctly, and it breaks us down. It breaks this vessel down, and it breaks the most important thing down, which is the connection to source, to this source of energy, creativity, passion, inspiration. It's something that we all possess, and it's external from us, but internal. And what I'm talking about is the flow of energy, this creative source of love, let's call it that. It's internal within all of us, but it's external within our brothers and sisters. So that if we all process these emotional traumas, or these emotional experiences, or these emotional repetitive cycles that hold us back, then we connect with love within ourselves. And once you connect to the love within yourself, you connect to the love within your brothers and sisters. And that's what happened to me. That's why I talk about it. And that's very real. I gave you a lot of information in those 2 minutes right there. But think about that. Think about what an emotion is. It's energy. That's exactly what it is. That's why when we get really angry, you flow, your blood boils, everything gets very hot, very, very rapid. We don't think clearly. We just explode. But what are we exploding? Sure, words. Sure, sometimes physical, physically we explode. But at the same time, what is the release? The release is energy. As well with sadness. When you get sad, you're down, you're real low, your frequency shuts down real low, and you emit these strong sources of energy from your body that turn into tears. That's what it looks like physically. That's the physical output of sadness, is tears. But if we stay inside of this for a long period of time, we don't move through it. We don't move through the experience. We stay within the sadness. And that's how we process. That's a great way of looking at it. And that's a great way of looking at emotions through energy. Also, take happiness. Take love as an understanding. Like when you're happy, you're vibrating at a whole nother frequency, you know? You're attracting all this love. You're attracting all these like-minded individuals because that frequency is being emitted from you, and that energetic connection is being hit by the people with the same frequency because they're vibrating and they're emitting that same frequency. Energy attracts energy. Negativity attracts negativity. Positivity attracts positivity. That's the law of attraction. It's very real. And it's just, you know, something that we don't really talk about. And I'm trying to give this to you from a perspective that you can understand it in and digest it in, because it's real. You know, it's absolutely real. We do understand negativity. We do understand positivity. And we do understand that when we're stuck inside of a negative, repetitive cycle, everything around us is negative. So we view the world through this obstructive view of negativity, where we believe we're living in what's so-called hell. But that's not true. It's true because we manifest our reality. But if we shift our perspective, we process emotions that hold us back, we move through fear, and we allow love to make a home in ourselves by relinquishing the emotional repetitive cycle that we keep ourselves in, man, you tapped into the source of love. Everything flows and everything changes because you manifest your reality. Because how you feel is how you think. So that's really important. And I want you to understand that nothing in the world is holding you back. Yes, there's establishment. Yes, there's corporations. Yes, we have entities that want to control us. Absolutely. But the only thing that allows that control to take place is you. I mean, take myself, for example. You know, I went through, lived, walked, breathed hell. What I assumed was hell because I was living in such a negative, dense space of fear, anxiety, and stress by being an addict for 23 years because I didn't know how to love myself. I wasn't sure what that even was, like what that even looked like. Self-love? I mean, I'd heard the words, but usually I assumed it was for girls, and I assumed they were having self-love when they got their hair done and their nails done. You know, I thought it was taking care of the external body. No one ever taught me what it meant to love myself from within. And more so as a male, men don't talk about how they feel. And let's fucking talk about that for a second. Like, men don't talk about how they feel. Why? Because in 1930, during the Great Depression, they sucked it up and went to work every day with all their emotional traumas and never talked about it? Fine. Okay, I understand that. It's 2023. I don't need to follow that same pattern that my great-grandfather taught my grandfather and my grandfather taught my father. I'm going to break that cycle. And I'm going to break that cycle because I went inside of myself and recreated belief systems. That's part of loving yourself, is understanding yourself from your own perspective. Really, it's relinquishing all the learned behavior. I mean, when you start this journey, basically what you have to do is unlearn everything you've known. Unlearn everything everyone taught you. Because you need to arrive to your own understandings based on your own conclusions, based on your own experiences and your own experiments that are for you, not somebody else's idea of what an experience or an emotion should be for them. And that was really important for me to come to that conclusion because I had to look to the past to understand the present. I mean, that's how I arrived in this place of where I am to love myself, is I looked at the fact that my father didn't talk about how he felt. Nobody in my family talked about how they felt, and that's very normal for everywhere in the world. It doesn't matter where you come from. This is quite common. So I looked at that and I thought, okay, like I can understand those patterns, but where I am today, it brought me and led me to a place of self-destructiveness. I didn't know how to love myself, so I hurt myself by hiding inside of fear, anxiety, and stress. And that's detrimental to all of us, you know? Like, that shit's real. Hiding inside of fear, anxiety, and stress because we've never been taught how to do something differently. I'm going to tell you how liberating it is to teach yourself something new. Oh, man, like, when you know who you are and you live life on your own terms, man, it ain't always easy. But I can tell you that it is beautiful even in the most difficult moments because it's you. It's you learning. It's you recreating new patterns and new belief systems. And everything that you don't get on the first try that you want to get, you look at it as education. You go, shit, that was hard, or man, learned a difficult lesson there by saying that, or whatever it may be. However the experience goes, you don't put yourself down anymore. You don't hide. You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be anxious or stressed out. You literally detach from the emotional aspect of the entire experience and you go, okay, that's education. And sure, certainly I have moments that I'm still feeling, for sure I'm human. That's part of the human experience. But I don't get caught up in the feeling. I feel it. I enjoy the moment, or I enjoy the moment if it's sad. I enjoy the moment if it's frustrating. I enjoy the moment however it looks, if I'm happy and I learned something great. And I move through it. And I get ready for the next one. Because that's just extremely important to be able to do that. And it's extremely important to be able to talk to yourself about those moments and situations rather than just bearing them. To go back to this, talking about men and not talking about how you feel, like these days mental and emotional health are ramping up worse than they've ever been. And it's because we've practiced not talking about how we feel. And this isn't just for men. I'm just speaking to men in this moment. We've practiced not talking about how we feel for quite some time. And it ain't cool. It ain't cool. Like, to try and tell you that you need to drink a bunch of beers and suck it up or go in the back and have a moment yourself and recompose yourself. Give me a break, man. Like, give me a break. What, men aren't allowed to display an emotion because they're sad about something or they're angry or they want to talk about loss or pain or regret or guilt or shame or whatever it may be for fear to process the emotion? Talk to me about that. You know what I mean? You don't want to talk about how you feel because you want to move through something? You'd rather bury it? Man, let that shit go. Let those ideologies go. Move through some shit in your life, man. Process some things. Let me tell you, if you're feeling sad and tired, lonely, depressed, fear, anxious, stressed out all the time, talk. Talk first to yourself. Build up enough courage to talk. Look at your past. Look at how you've arrived to this present moment as to why you don't talk. Let it all go. Unlearn it all. If nobody taught you how to do it, just start. Just start talking about it. And how do you talk about it? Talk about it with yourself first. It's really about creating a relationship with self first before we go and talk to somebody else about it. Because how are you going to talk to somebody else about how you feel if you don't talk to yourself first? You got to build up that strength within yourself. It's very important. That way, that gives you the motivation to start talking to people about how you feel because you know how you feel. And you know how you arrived at these feelings. And you know that you need help processing things from a different perspective. And that's why you're talking to somebody else, is to gain perspective. And don't think there ain't people out there that aren't talking like this. I'm one of them. And a lot of people say to me, Justin, you're rare. And it's like, hey, I might be rare, but it's rare if you don't talk to many people. Start finding a new tribe, man. If the people you're surrounded yourself with are drinking beers and trying to bury themselves within their emotions because they're not talking about it, well, you're going to do the same thing because that's normal. But if you're tired of that and you want to try something new, then find a new group of individuals. I don't know, man. Go play darts. Go play pool. Just start talking to new individuals. Look for opportunities to put yourself in new experiences and open up a little bit. They have this app called Meetup. Please look into that because Meetup is a way for you to show up to a place where there's other individuals that are looking to meet new individuals as well. And you might not get it on the first try, right? Like, don't allow fear to restrict you from trying again. Anything we practice, we get good at. Just like talking to ourselves about how we feel, you're going to get better at talking about how you feel to other people once you practice it. Man, I'm 21, 22 episodes in. When I started doing this whole thing on Facebook Live, like that's where all of this started, I didn't know what I was doing. I just gotten out of jail like 2 months before and I was totally homeless and I had all these crazy bad behaviors, but I was not going to not talk about it. I mean, I went through that shit, right? Like the things that are holding you back in your life, people have gone through. And there are like-minded individuals that can share perspective and allow you to see your experiences or your traumas or your feelings from another perspective so that you may be able to process them. Because don't rely on anyone to fix you. Nobody's going to fix you. You know what I mean? You got to show up for yourself. That's very real, and I want you to know that. And it should empower you. You know, take back your power, man. And I'm talking to women as well. Sorry, I know I was speaking to men there but I'm speaking to everybody. I speak to everyone, but I believe, you know, the divine feminine, the woman of the world, they know what I'm saying. They know men need to be talking. So my sisters that are out there that are listening to this, I would like to believe that they're saying, yeah, brother, keep talking. You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm not talking to you girls as well, because obviously I am. But, you know, don't stop trying. Like, show up for yourself, right? Like, that's what this podcast teaches you, is to show up for yourself. And how important that is, because you have an immense amount of power. We give our power away when we are afraid. When you're afraid, you hide within yourself. That's what's going on. You don't speak your truth because you practice distracting from the truth. What is a distraction? Shopping, food, video games, social media, porn, money, jobs. Some people are like working 2-3 jobs. They're like, I am my job. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not your job. You're so much more than that. You are a highly evolved spiritual being. You just got to reconnect with love within you. Once you connect with love, you see how quickly jobs are just created to divide us and to control us and to make us do things we don't want to do. As soon as you know something else, you're like, yeah, being free is the best thing ever. And it's true. I mean, I work with people these days and I open them up, or they open themselves up. I just offer perspective and I lead by example. And they're like, shit, yeah, man, like, you're right. Working is not everything. Money is not everything. But it's all you know. So when it's all you know, because you've distracted yourself from getting to know who you are and what you really love, connecting back into Mother Nature, connecting back into that source of love that I was talking about before, man, that's the alleviation of the external practice of life. That's when you really start living, is once you start going within. Meditation and yoga and breath work, again, I'm talking to everybody, but I want the guys to hear me on this one. It ain't some weird thing, man, to be doing that. It's extremely powerful. I would encourage men who are listening to this to check out Wim Hof's guided breathwork meditation. It's wonderful. It's 10 minutes. Practice that every day. You know, start whatever. If you don't do it every day, just start practicing, right? If you get it on the first one, you miss a couple days, just jump back into it, right? It's like riding a bike. Anything you practice, you get good at. So, but the benefits of practicing breath work, it's an awareness. It's an absolute awareness to the present moment. That's what I gain out of it anyways. And I find that it centers me. It really allows me to connect for a moment. I set mine up so that I immediately fall into meditation music. I usually listen to like a certain frequency or something like that. You can listen to powerful frequencies on YouTube. You can like set it up in that way. But even if that's too difficult for you, just search Wim Hof's guided breathwork meditation. This is for anyone as well. It's a wonderful practice to start, and it's only 10 minutes, so it doesn't take too much, but it really allows you to focus and work on your breathing because it induces oxygen within your blood, and it allows you to create DMT within your physical body. And DMT is such a wonderful aspect and tool to connect to ourselves and to this source of love as well. That's why we have these tools, right? It's disconnection from things that are not real. And this podcast only speaks to things that are real, so I want you to disconnect from wasting time on TikTok. You know, so many of my brothers at work are just plugged in, man, to the social media. Like, and I'm not saying all social media is bad, because, you know, there's no such thing as good or bad. It's like what you do with your time, though, right? Like, if you're wasting time watching people fall down all the time, like, you're not really learning anything. You're not really getting anywhere. Yes, laughter is a wonderful medicine, and I advocate for that heavily, for sure. Find joy within your life. Make yourself laugh, or find things that make you laugh, absolutely. But really, like, spending 2-3 hours on that kind of stuff, you kind of got to weigh that, right? Like, because you need harmony and balance. So be cautious of how much time and energy you're putting into things. Like, if they're not helping you grow, like, what are you doing? Are you just distracting from something else? Become aware of that, right? Because everything is trying to guide us back to love. But if we allow fear to make a home within ourselves, it's something we practice and we get really good at it. And then we become so far removed from love that it becomes a challenge for us to overcome and to connect back with love. It's just something to become highly aware about, right? Because if you want to move through yourself and you want to grow into something more powerful, take back your power, it's all about love. Like, love is the greatest tool, the most powerful tool, and the most powerful tool of connection that we all possess. You don't need nothing from nobody because you have all the power, but there are outside sources that are trying to take that power away from us. Another aspect of fear that I would like to talk about is relationships. I mean, if everything is energy, we can be stuck in a negative energetic field, or we can be stuck in a positive energetic field. And we've talked about energy through emotions, so you understand the energetic field that I'm talking about. If we're sad, scared, anxious, stressed out, depressed all the time, we're put into a negative state of energy. But if we're happy and we're with people that are trying to encourage us, well, then we become in a higher frequency and we emit a positive energetic state. So if you're in a relationship that doesn't serve your highest purpose, that individual isn't encouraging your most absolute growth within life through an understanding of love, then ask yourself what you're doing in that relationship. More so, take a look at how much time you've been in that relationship and ask yourself where this thing's going. Because if you're too afraid to get out of a relationship based on a materialistic aspect, check yourself. You're not materialism. It's just stuff. And if you're going to talk to me about children, let me talk to you about the children. If you're going to stay in a relationship that is detrimental to your mental and emotional health, and you think those kids aren't picking up on that, check yourself. I can promise you, kids are highly susceptible and highly aware to energy. They are sponges. They are not stupid by any means. They know what's going on. They're wonderful readers of humans because they're more aware than we are. Now, we are taking a lot away from them by distracting them and putting them in front of screens at a very young age. We are actually breaking the connection to the awareness or to the connection of source of love. But right now, I want you to become aware of that. If you're staying in a relationship because you are afraid of what may happen to the kids, think of what the benefits are for the kids, because yeah, it'll be difficult in the beginning, but if two individuals are able to grow in a more positive manner within themselves, well, then the children are going to benefit from that. There just needs to be difficult conversations that have to happen if you have kids with the children. Two adults need to come together and say, hey, we can't be together because of whatever it may be, but we're mature enough to be able to have this conversation and mature enough to be able to know that the children come first. Our needs come second, but the children's come first. So we need to have this conversation as a family, but the family will no longer look like a family because the family is in the external world as well. And I think it's important to teach kids that there's more of a family in the community that we live in than just our immediate homes. Like, that's something that we really have to become aware of. So we don't want to be afraid of that either. We don't want to be afraid of encouraging and attracting new individuals into our family, like breaking down judgments and breaking down divisions. Lead by example. Be the example for your children. Like, that's what we are as parents. We're guides. We're not here to control them and wrap them up in bubble wrap so they never get dirty and they never fall down. Like, that's extremely detrimental to your child. We're here to teach them, and we're here to teach them by example. You lead by example. That leaves the most lasting impression on your children. If you're trying to buy your children love, let me tell you, you're going to set them up for a world of problems. It gets them nowhere. Love through materialism is just a ridiculous aspect of life, but one that some of us have been taught how to show and display love because that's how we were taught displayed love too. But become aware of that. Unlearn everything you know and take everything that you have as education and apply it in your life and the children or the people that you're guiding or that you're around into their life. Because lived experience is just that. It's education. And it's meant to be shared with others around us. And that's what gives life purpose. Let's be real. Like, the things that we go through are the most valuable things that we possess. The most valuable thing is not found in your bank account. Like, money is just hollow. It's fictitious. Like, if you're taking that money and you're trying to buy brands and show people that you're better than them, you got a lot to learn. And I mean that. I really mean that. Like, trying to show other people that you're better than them because you have more expensive clothes than they do, or you have a more expensive car, will get you nowhere. You don't want to get to the finish line and have wasted that kind of time and energy on hollow, fictitious things that don't help you grow spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or physically. So it's something to become aware of, right? Like, where are you putting your time? Where are you putting your energy? These kind of things are extremely beneficial to those around us, especially children. So yeah, with relationships, have difficult conversations with yourself. It's imperative. I mean, you're here to grow. You're here to learn. You're not here to stay stuck in an emotional repetitive cycle. And I'll be honest with you. It was just Father's Day, and that was a difficult time for me because I don't have my children. But when I was in active addiction and when I was just not well within myself, and you don't have to be an addict, I didn't love myself. I didn't know how to love myself, so I certainly was not loving the women that I had children with. And I certainly didn't show my children all of the love that they deserved and all of the guidance and education that I had within me, because I didn't even know how to unlock it within myself, because I was stuck in a repetitive emotional cycle of fear, anxiety, and stress within myself. So everyone in that family was lacking. And yes, obviously that situation, that relationship deteriorated for sure, because at some point there was zero love and it collapsed. But, I look back on it now, and the only thing I think about for those women is they should have left sooner. I can admit that. I would have liked for them to have left sooner, because it would have been more beneficial for our children, and it would have been more beneficial for them. Like, there's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of anger. I mean, it's been quite some time since we have spoken, but I can only imagine. I was a very difficult human, and I can accept that. And I want to share that with you, because I want you to know that's something that I learned along the course of my journey. And then, having grown into more of an understanding of love for myself, well, here I am with the truth, right? So I'm able to speak my truth. And is it difficult for me to say that? Sure, absolutely. But at the same time, it's honest. So it's not difficult at all. It's very beneficial. And I feel better about talking about the truth, right? That's a big aspect about love, is speaking your truth. That's one of the most beneficial things to love, is just showing up for yourself and being able to speak that truth no matter the level of difficulty, and especially with the people you love, because you're able to do that within first. And that's why I said, when you're trying to practice talking about how you feel, you got to talk about how you feel with you first. I mean, this is where it begins, because if you don't know what you want to talk about, then what you want to say when you have a moment to say it to someone else won't come. So that's important, right? And it took me a while to practice that. I'm 3 years since I have decided I love myself, or 3 years since I have quit using drugs. But more so, I like to say like 3 years since I decided to love myself, because I was only in active addiction because I didn't know how to love myself. And then I accepted spirituality into my life, and spirituality accepted me. And if you're looking to learn a little more about spirituality, in the previous episodes, I talk about it, and I talk about the connection that I made to a source external from me, but internal to me, which is very beautiful. And I would encourage you to listen to the previous podcast, as there's information that can help you grow in every aspect of what we're talking about. That's what each episode is about. It just teaches you a little more of how to see something, but you have to see it from your own perspective, because the things that I say worked for me, and I'm just sharing about that. And other people have reached out to me and says, yeah, like, that's a beautiful way to look at things. I just share how I see the world, right? And it's in a very simplistic form. And I believe that that's what we need to go back to these days, is simplicity, right? And we need to do away from the distractions so we can focus on ourselves, because the mind is very chaotic. The energy within ourselves is very chaotic, because we're constantly rushing around. And then when we're rushing around, we get anxious and stressed out. And once we're anxious and stressed out, we become afraid. The energy inside of us changes. And to become aware of that, just from like a very reasonable perspective, a very logical perspective, is a wonderful thing. It's like, it's not some crazy woke mentality or anything like that. It's real. It's so real, and that's what we need to be talking about, is real things. Because there's so many ways to obtain misinformation or be misled by others. And I don't want to mislead you or give you any misinformation. I just want you to find it on your own. And I know that if you do away with distractions and you surround yourself with like-minded individuals, or you just try and find a new community, you're going to open yourself up to new frequencies of energy, and you're going to allow things to move through you. You're going to be able to let go of things. And man, once you let go of things, you're going to change. And it ain't about changing, it's about evolving. That's what I mean when I say change, because evolution of self to a higher self is everything. That's what we're here to do. We're not here to make no money. Like, never mind. If you're making money, just give it away. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to spiritually grow, you want to evolve, give your money away. That's how you do it. Like, be humble, right? Like, if you're in a big house, you got like too many cars, like, give it away. Like, there's too many people that don't have access to that. That's not really a definition of success, is to have more than other people and feel better. You're just inflating ego, and it's not a good place to be, because who wants to be regarded in that aspect? I mean, to think that you're separate from your brothers and sisters, like, we're all here to evolve together. Like, this doesn't happen unless we all do it together. And I think that's extremely important to become aware of. Like, this evolution of self into love is for everyone. And so just have that conversation with yourself and become aware of these kind of things, because I know you're aware of it. Like, I mean, you're a human being, a part of the human race. You can't try to trick me that you're not aware of that. You're just surrounded by people that encourage those same avenues or that same aspect of greed. Because let's be real, that's what it is. It's just greed when we accumulate too much and we don't share it. We don't need that. It's poor for the soul, right? The soul's just here to evolve and grow into something beautiful. Another thing that I want to talk about with fear is moving. A lot of people have said to me, like, oh, I'd love to move to the West, or I'd love to live in the mountains, or I'd love to live in the forest. Like, I just say to them, like, what's holding you back? Well, my family's all here. Yeah, but if you're afraid and you're anxious and you're stressed out and your mental and emotional health is not well because you feel this immense amount of desire to move to another place, why don't you give yourself a little bit of time to try that out, right? Because if you change your environment, you'll change your community, and you change your community, you'll change your thoughts, right? Like, so give yourself that time. Like, you don't need to be stuck around your immediate family for fear that you won't be accepted by your external family, which is your brothers and sisters in the world. I mean, you never know what could be offered for you, or you never know the perspective that could be unlocked within you just by moving. So I want you to be very aware of that. Young kids today are kind of thinking about like mortgages at a very young age. And I usually say to them, like, forget the mortgage. Like, if you want to do school, fine, like, become an employee, no problem, do your thing. But at the same time, you better take a little bit of time after you've made those choices and travel. More so, I like to tell them before they make the choices to go into university or college. Because if you travel, you really get to know who you are. You like break the cycle. I mean, traveling is such a beautiful aspect of life because there's many like-minded individuals that are out there searching for something more. I mean, if you want to be an employee right out of high school, go ahead, right? You're going to spend the rest of your life just being an employee, chasing money. Think about that, right? And as a parent, you should really encourage that notion, right? That the destination for them is now retirement, and a few little vacations along the way, but very small. So, that to me, when I think about that, it doesn't seem like the most wonderful way to spend 45 years. I would much rather do what I love and have somebody give me money for it so I never work a day in my life. And I think that that's a great thing to encourage from a parental perspective, or you don't have to be a parent to encourage children to look at things that way, because it's just the truth, right? Like, if you're in a position where you're surrounded by the youth or you're surrounded by other individuals, like, encourage that kind of conversation. Like, bring that to an awareness, because that this systematic way of life, to be locked into something for 45 years for very little money and to be stressed out over the high cost of basic needs is a reality, right? So why not take a little bit of money and go see the world and get to know who you are? Because a lot of people that I know that are 30 years old, or they've been working for 15, 20 years, I ask them, I'll say, like, what was the most happiest time in your life? And they all usually say to me those years that I traveled before I started working. Because that's everything. That's living for you. That's not being afraid. That's speaking your truth and being out there and accepting energy from Mother Nature, and accepting energy from your brothers and sisters or in other parts of the world. And you're able to see how other parts of the world grow and live and love and think. And it's like, why wouldn't we encourage those aspects at a very young age? I mean, that's when you're highly susceptible to beautiful relationships within yourself to other people and other places external from you. And it helps you and allows you to see really, where your heart is, and you're not stuck as a cog in a wheel for the machine. And that's a reality. That's not something that we need to shy away from talking about, because that's an absolute reality. We make people money who don't need it, right? And we do that for an extended period of time, which is, over half of our life. And this magical place of retirement that they talk about, like we spend our whole lives, anxious, stressed out, and afraid for fear we won't make our payments on our overpriced houses, or how are we going to get the kids in these after school activities because everything's overpriced these days. Groceries is just atrocious. Look at that and really just ask yourself, is that what I want for my kids? Teach them that, they don't need to be afraid their whole lives of money, right? Because if you do what you love, then they just give you money and you get to stay humble. So it's important. I think it's really important to talk about these things and to share this with the youth, because, if they're afraid at a very young age, fear is a restriction. We just talked about that. And the youth are afraid these days. There's so many issues with social anxieties and communication between individuals. It's man, we've got to be the example these days. We've got to step up for these children, and we've got to be there for them and let them learn from our mistakes, or learn from the difficult experiences that we face in our life, that we would have loved to have that education passed to us at a very young age. Just like I looked at why my family was never able to talk about how they feel, I learned from, something from 1930. We can do the same thing within our lives, from 1990, 1980, why be stressed out and afraid our whole lives over money? That's a really valuable piece of education. And again, it all comes down to fear. So fear is a very powerful tool of control. Yeah, if you let it, and I want you to be aware of that. But love, as an understanding, is the ability to take back your power and to be free and to be sovereign within yourself, because, oh, what a liberating experience that is, to just be free from society's bullshit, right? There's no more judgment. There's no more division. There's no more materialism. There's no more greed. There's no more profit-based ideologies of what the world has to look like. We can live in love. We can live in peace. And it's here. And we're in the end of something. And this time is so extremely difficult because you all chose to come back to witness the event. And the event is the transition and the awakening into love. And I know many of you are seeking this avenue, and you're seeking more. And that's why you listen to these kind of podcasts. And that's why you listen to other individuals that speak this way, is because you know it. You know that this way is getting old and is boring, and it's so tiresome to be afraid all the time. And that some of these individuals possess this light within them, and they're so free within themselves, even though all this negativity is going on in the world. How do these individuals have this wonderful power within themselves? Well, that power is love. And it's here, and it's going to have its day. And the faster we go within ourselves and we relinquish these emotional repetitive cycles that we have ourselves stuck in due to experiences that we came here to learn, man, it's going to happen. And then we don't have to worry anymore, because money will go away, because control will go away. And something else I just want to share with you, a lot of people get lost inside of talking about establishments and corporations and religions controlling us, and that's where they put all their time and energy. I want to give you another perspective to look at those things. Those things are happening because they're meant to. Are they crazy? For sure. Absolutely. But it's happening. So we can't change that, right? We have to accept the things we can't change. But rather than look at the detrimental aspects of it, it's this is bringing us closer together. These individuals that have chosen greed, power, and control as a way of life, they are forgetting that the 99% of the population that makes up the rest of the world has an immense amount of power when we come together. And there's never been a time or a need greater to come together. And by having greedy people become more greedy and the environment suffer at such an immense rate of speed, is bringing us closer together. And I also want you to know, when you look at the environment, that's another thing I want to talk about. Yes, it's sad. It breaks my heart. I love Mother Nature so much, and I love this beautiful planet and the energy that it emits and shares with me. But at the same time, it knows. It's so smart. And it's so intelligent, and it's so far more advanced than we are in this present moment. But once we connect together again, we'll see that the trees actually sacrificed themselves because they knew that it would bring us closer to the event. And the event is the awakening into love for mankind and the evolution of mankind into a higher density of love and understanding and connection. So that is here and that is happening. And I just want you to understand that when you look outside, just, say thank you to the nature that surrounds you, to the humans that surround you, because we're all here together and we're all in it together and we're all right where we need to be, and everything is happening just as it should, because it's what takes us to that place of love. So try not to view the negatives too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much positivity and there's so much beauty in everything. It's just a matter of perspective and how you look at it. And you have to understand that there's duality, right? So where we have a negative, we definitely have a positive. It's a beautiful aspect of life. Thank you. Thank you for showing up for this one. Thank you for any male, that listen to this and really awaken something within themselves. I really want you to know how much I appreciate you for that, how much your children and your family will appreciate you for that, and how much you should appreciate yourself for that, because it's time. It's just time to let things go, and you don't always have to have it together. No one has it all together. We start to figure it out a little more when we start to let things go. We start to process things, and we accept that we can do that, that we can. We stop using the words can't, and we start telling ourselves that we can, and it's okay. And if you need to talk to somebody about how you feel, wonderful. Make sure you talk to yourself first, right? And I think that's really important. And if you need somebody to talk to, I'll show up for you, right? I'll give my email here in a second. I just also wanted to say to all the sisters, all the ladies out there, thank you for being such a wonderful example of what it means to be strong. I just can't tell you how much I appreciate the divine feminine in this current state of time, because there's so much empathy and compassion and sympathy and patience that is cultivated within. And I know that there's many examples of mental and emotional health, but what I'm talking about is the divine feminine, and that's a collective, and that's a very powerful force that women have cultivated within, and they're very patient in their understanding. And I just want to say thank you for being here. And this time is so ridiculous. And also, I just want to say, right now we're living in a world run by men, and it's completely screwed up. Because we don't have harmony and balance. The world needs to be viewed and looked at as unity and equality through our brothers and sisters, and everyone is one. You know what I'm saying? So we need the divine feminine, we need the divine masculine to grow into more of an understanding together, and that's kind of where we're headed. So I just want to say thank you to all the girls out there, because it's a beautiful thing to become aware of and say thank you to. I have an immense amount of gratitude for you. My social media is Real Talk for an Unreal World. This YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I cut up the clips from the podcast and I throw up 1-minute clips up on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram, and it just kind of gives you something to think about throughout the day. If you don't listen to the whole podcast, or you do, you can check out the social media links, and then I just kind of give little 1-minute reminders throughout the week until I do the next episode. And I've had a great response with it. People have just really just been so amazing with me and the content. So I really appreciate you for that, and I really appreciate everyone else for that. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of all that, and to have the response and feedback from individuals. My Twitter is Real Talk, 4 Unreal. I do the same thing on there. Sometimes I write some quotes. I'm still stuck inside of my company. I haven't let it go yet, but I'm very close. And once I do let it go, I'll be all in on this social media and just taking better care of what I'm doing here and getting better at it. So I'm looking forward to that as well. The most important thing is my email, realtalkforanunrealworld@gmail.com. You can send me an email, talk to me about how you feel. You can message me on any of my social media outlets as well. I get back to everybody, and we can talk. We can work some things out. So if you're trying to tell me you don't have a community, you do. I'm right here, and I've got time right now. So hit me up, and we can work some things out. But you gotta do the work. I can't change you, I can't fix you, but we can talk about some things, and we can bring you to a new awareness into self. Much love, and I really enjoy this. I really enjoy stepping up to this and having these conversations, and I can't wait to do this every day. I can't wait to like every week, every couple days. I got guests on. We're having conversations. We're growing. We're growing. We're growing. Like, I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you for being here, and thank you for talking about this channel with other people and just showing up for you. So much love. Appreciate you.